Hi, and welcome to another AI in C# video on the Microsoft Agent Framework. Today we're going to look into the Azure AI Foundry. This is an overview video, and we're also going to make a portal walkthrough so you understand what the service offers. But first, let's quickly have a look at the three different options you essentially have when working with agents. Because you have the option to go the generic route, have a generic chat agent. It will give you all the basics, and then you bring your own additions like vector stores and stuff like that. If you go more in AI, OpenAI, you go with their responses API, and there's separate videos on that. And if you go that way, that is you going to use OpenAI more. It's your one place to do everything, and it gives some incentives like extra hosted tools, files and vector stores, and a few specific things that are only available in the Responses API, like reasoning summaries and spatial models. If you want to go the corporate way, the Microsoft way, you go Azure AI Foundry. And Azure AI Foundry is in the same manner as over here, your one place to do all your AI. So they have the same incentives for hosted tools and files and vector stores. They also bring more models. I put that in here, but when it comes to agents, it's more or less only the OpenAI models, but we will talk about that in a bit more. And then, as it's normal for Microsoft, it brings a lot of enterprise features, audit, governance, monitoring, tracing, and such things. So it is essentially which of these three bubbles do you want to be? Do you want to go all in on Microsoft and use all their tools in order to ensure governance, enterprise, and so on? Do you want to use OpenAI, quick, easy, and simple? Or do you want to go where you can actually pick and choose various different things? I tend to land up here, with sometimes going down here. I find this too enterprisey, but that's a matter of opinion. But let's go in and see the portal and take a walkthrough of it. So here we are in the portal, ai.azure.com, and you have your Azure AI Foundry. Recently, there was two options here. There was Azure OpenAI and Azure AI Foundry. But actually, as of this recording, very near that, the Azure OpenAI part became AI Foundry as well. So when you logged in, it actually came and said, hey, I need you to convert to this. You press the button, and then it would turn into an Azure AI Foundry. And an AI Foundry have a lot of things. So you can make resources and you can make projects, and resources can be shared across multiple projects. So that is the reason, if we look in here, that I have a project here and I have a parent resource. I have a project here and I have a parent resource. But you do everything on project level. And not that it's for this video, but you can go to the Management Center and look at all the underlying resources. And all these resources can, of course, also be seen up in the Azure portal. So these are more for the management people of the system, while the AI Foundry is where we as developers go and work. So let's go through not every single one of these. I will mention what each of them are, but some of them I will skip in more details because they have nothing really to do with agents, or it's just information on how to get going. So first up, we have our Foundry. And as we can see, it can be used in three different ways. In certain countries, AI Foundry is not available, but in most countries. So the AI Foundry is where you get this extra hosted tools and vector stores and so on. While if you just want to use it in a more raw nature, you go with Azure OpenAI. And there you can get the models still, but you don't get any specific tools unless you bring them yourself. And then there's AI services. That is some more low-level stuff. I haven't actually used that as such. It all brings the same API key, and you can also do role-based access. Then we come to the models, and there's a lot of models up here in Azure Foundry. So if you go with OpenAI, you of course only get the OpenAI models. But you can see down here it says 125 different models. And it can even go in and say, see all the models, and then you get, I think, like 11,000 or something different models. That's a nice marketing ploy because many of these models in the 11,000 is something that you need to start up a new resource in order to use some of the Hugging Face models and such things. But if we go in and look again in here, we also saw there was more models, and there's 125. But and yes, you can host them here, and you just spend your tokens like normal. So I could go in and have a Grok, or I could have a Mistral, or the various things we have here. Missing here, of course, is Google. They don't want to have a competing competitor have their models, and Anthropic is not here as well, meaning the Claude models. But else, all the major models are here, DeepSeek and so on and so forth. But you need to be aware that we are dealing with agents, and the agents parts down here cannot use every single of these models. So if we go in here, we are only allowed to use certain models, and they even show some that actually don't work. You can't select them. So it's more or less only OpenAI that actually works with the agent part of this. That might change over time, but right now that's the only ones that work with that. So yes, there's many more models, and for the chat client, you can use all the other models here, but it is not entirely true that you get more models if you just go the agent route. For each of these models, you can go into the various playgrounds. You can go into chat playground, but also a video playground and so on. I don't tend to spend much time here. Yes, we can work with them here and try them out, but in reality, I need them to work in code, so I don't spend much time here. Agents is where your persistent agents and your persistent threads are, where you ask questions back and forward, and everything is stored, so you don't need to new up the agent, you just need to reference it, and your threads, meaning the different conversations that have been there, are stored, so you don't need to store them yourself. An agent can then either be tested in the playground, you can give it a name, deployment, and so on, like we have seen in the first zero to first agent. And then there's a lot of knowledge and actions, which is essentially all just tools, either of reading kind or writing kind, or agents. Connected agents is just agents as tools. There's some settings, and then the important part here is that every time you do some of these things, it's not that this specific agent owns it. It is more that you make these different resources or data sources, as they call it here, available, and then each agent can pick them in the list. In the same manner, you can get code interpreter, logic apps, and such things. And connected agents is just other agents. So we can choose one of the other agents in my system to set up. So these are essentially just tools for your system, and some of them are something that are fairly hard to do in a generic client, like web searches and code interpreters, because a code interpreter needs some kind of container that are sandboxed, and these tools give them in a nice manner. But we will definitely go more into agents and set up these in separate videos. Templates is not really something I'm going to go to. It's just a bunch of GitHub repositories that show how you use the various things, often only in Python. So that is one of the reasons I don't use them. Fine-tuning is where you fine-tune a model. It's not every single model in the world that can be fine-tuned, as you can see here. And fine-tuning will be a topic for a different video series, because it has nothing really to do with agents. Of course, you can use a fine-tuned model in an agent, but beyond that, it's not really something. Content understanding is OCR, and agentic OCR, where you find files in things. I haven't seen any agent part that can use that yet, but I guess an agent can be hooked up to use this. Then there's tracing, which is you hook up an application inside and can use telemetry. If you saw the telemetry video from my series, you will know this. And this is just a way of seeing the same data up in the cloud, where you see what have been asked in the models and so on. So a lot of enterprise stuff that you have the audits and everything. Monitor applications, and for some reason I can't get this to show anything at any point. I think it's broken. But the idea is that you should get some analytics, because application inside themselves don't really know a lot about AI. So they have built this on top. You can go and say resource usage on the different models, but you can do that in a better way in my book down here at the endpoints. Then there's a bunch of enterprise stuff, evaluation of, it's not really anything that is out of the box, but a lot of examples that you can go in and say, how good is the AI? How did it talk about harmful stuff? Did it talk about sexual stuff, and so on and so forth? So there's a bunch of evaluation things. There's guardrails, so you can set up block list, block keywords and stuff like that. There's risks and alerts. I haven't tested it out, but again, enterprise stuff that you need to do, and governance for all the various big corporation needs. Then there's a few tools here in Azure OpenAI, which is the old stuff. So something to do with the fine-tuning of models, evaluations of those, and batching of work that you can set up. Not really something I have used personally. Then there is the place where you can upload files and make in the vector stores and stuff. As far as I can see, you need to do that through code. It seems you can't really do it from here and upload and download stuff. But we will see that in the administration video on Azure AI Foundry. Then there is the important part, of course, the models, where you deploy your model, either a normal model or a fine-tuned model. And then you choose your models that you want to use, like ChatGPT-5. And when you confirm them, you choose the name, and then you choose where it should be. Like, is it global standard, which is the cheapest one, or your compute can happen in any region in Azure. If it need to be zoned into specific reasons due to regulations and stuff that can be done, and then some of the models are less available. And you can set a lot of different things, like which version of the model, where it should go to resources, and how many tokens a minute. And of course, things like content filters. For each of the models, we can also go in and see the metrics, and with almost up-to-date information about how many tokens you use, the latency, and such things. And then there's risk and safety, which go in and check for bad words and stuff like that. It's also here you go and request quotas if you need more tokens. Many models, when you just get them as an individual, have very few tokens, like 30,000 a minute. And up here you go in and fill out a form in order to get more tokens that you need to justify. Then we have something called web apps, which I don't really use, and I have tried it once. It's something where, if you don't code, you can just press this and click a bunch of buttons, and then you get a web app in Azure, and it's a chatbot, and that's it. And not really something that can be used for anything, and it doesn't really look like you can do many more in the system. The more here is just if you go in and say, okay, I don't care about these things, because I don't care about all these. So we just turn them off, so you have an easier way of looking at your system. And some of them don't want to turn off for some reason. But this is more or less what I use in day-to-day, and what I have it look like normally. As mentioned, there was the management center, and in here you can control the users who have access to what, and again, all this corporate, so you can control everything. That is more or less it. There's a few buttons over here. You can give some feedback. You can ask AI about the portal itself. You can go dark mode, and as normal AI, Azure stuff. So that was the overview and a sort of lightning tour of what this portal can do. And it can do so many different things. But when it comes to agents, we will go more into code, because everything you can do here can also be done in code. And that's what we're going to do in the next video, where we go to some administration parts of all this. So with that, thank you, and see you in the next one.